Hello, everyone. Again, this is episode 5 of Play Casket, and I'm one of your hosts, Paraka, and
Ghost, your co-host.
so we're gonna kind of deviate away from like taking a big old dump on Sony, and we're gonna actually like talk about stuff that other people took a dump on that we actually thought were great, and this is like stuff from what we just discovered, and some stuff that we probably just out of the nostalgia that we thought was good at the time when we were kids, that other kids at the time thought was absolute garbage.
Well, I guess more along the lines of what other people didn't like, but you actually liked, or we actually liked.
Yeah.
So
basically, that's just basically everything we do. Like that's that from our childhood and stuff like that too. And although I have a plethora of games, most of them like some people might know of, but they just think it's garbage, but not like universally like panned as garbage. And that's what I'm talking about like today.
yeah, well, I think some things will be kind of obscure. So
Yeah, some things will probably be obscure just because like time kind of makes it fade away too. Because I'm pretty sure like some things was very popular back then that nobody talks about now.
like Captain Crunch.
Yeah, like Captain Crunch. That's exactly kind of a segue on what I'm going to do eventually. But you actually kind of had an interesting one right before we started recording about what you liked, and I would piggyback off of that eventually. But you said stuff about a little portable.
Oh, yeah. So it was a little. If you guys remember the 200 Pro, they had infomercials on it. We were trying to figure out what this thing was, and the infomercial was just the 200 games in one, and you'll never have to buy these expensive cartridges ever again. And I never had a chance to buy it because it was like who did. Even as a kid, I saw through the bullshit because you see the little square graphics and you're like, this isn't all that cool compared to.
Why is it yucky like Tiger Electronics?
Well, it's even better, right?
It's even better.
Well,
it moves.
At the very least, you can make do with the aesthetics of it, and like hopefully the gameplay can carry it. You don't need all that fancy graphics. But luckily enough, I had my. I never had a chance to buy it, but when my cousins bought one, just for shits and giggles, I picked it up, and there were some good ones, some bad ones, some bland ones, but the one I really really liked was the tank. This like little tank game, and I played a lot like Asteroids, where like you go outside of the. You can go outside the walls, and you'll come through the other end, and you have these other tanks that are shooting at you, but you could fire. When you fire, it goes through the wall, and it'll come back and hit you in the back too, though. But you could hit. You have to calculate where the enemy's fire is coming from as you pass through the walls. It was really interesting, and it was the difficulty was so balanced. I'm like, man, this is a really good game. Actually, I rocked that little tank game like forever until we had to leave. But yeah, it was surprisingly good. I wish I could find one, but
Yeah, right before we started recording, we did like a search for it and stuff, and I don't ever recall ever seeing that infomercial
Really?
whatsoever. No, I never did. Like, and I used to like binge Saturday morning cartoons, and there was some infomercials for like weird CD versions of games, which actually, now that I mention it too, I want to go ahead and add to that. There was one CD game that I picked up because of that. It was like inside one of these magazines. Like it wasn't even like when Game Informer was even popular. This was when I was a kid, and it came in one of those like tech magazines. It was like 150 games, and some of them were like cheap knockoffs. Like you could tell that they were trying to be Mario, but this was when they're like color, right? They're like color on the PC, and one of those games was called Guimo,
What?
and it was Guimo,
Okay.
and it actually helped inspire one of my like video game ideas that kind of launched my desire to become a video game designer. And like it was basically you played this alien and you kind of it was like run and gun Contra style. Like it was definitely like a Contra knockoff a bit. And instead of having certain powers, that you just pick up power ups and you just kind of stuck with those type of power ups for a brief period of time or forever, depending on the Contra game you play. You had everything at your fingertips, like all types of weapons, but you only had a certain amount of each weapon. So you had the normal like laser gun that had infinite ammo, but you had a flamethrower, you had a spread, you had this weird little like spiral like weapon gun shot and stuff too. Like it was wild. It was actually what started me into wanting to become a game designer.
So this was in a magazine?
Yeah, it was like in a like I didn't it, game magazines weren't popular at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like tech ones that talked about PC games at the time would have them.
Yeah.
And one of them, and I don't know, I want to say it was like Tech Weekly or something to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it just had 150 games. I don't know how many games I played. Like I probably played maybe about half of them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them were like clear knockoffs, like clear, very clunky knockoffs.
Yeah.
But this Guimo game, like, did something different with the Contra franchise that I was like very interested in how they're gonna do it. Like, what's going on? And like, wait, you could do more with these ideas. And honestly, like that's kind of what started off. That's kind of started my little design philosophy and stuff, and started making this little like concept of one of these characters and stuff. That eventually grew into one of my big characters later on.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't tell me about this. We could have looked it up before we started this.
Yeah,
now I'm curious.
I'm honestly, it literally just dawned on me while we were recording right now. Like it was, like as I said, I was just when you were talking about it, me saying it out loud, I'm like, yeah, there's that one game. There was like 150 games on it. There was some puzzle like Choo Choo Rocket wannabes, and like before Choo Choo Rocket was even a Choo Choo Rocket.
Okay.
I'll say that right now. It was even before the Dreamcast. It was all pixelated, all these puzzle type of games. It was all like there are all sorts of stuff, but it was all easily weird knockoffs of other games that existed at the time.
That also reminds me about was it an education game? Because it kind of reminds me of
the one I played. No.
Oh, okay.
But there was some in it.
Those were fun, actually.
Some of those are. Some of those really are.
Math Blasters, and I remember there's this one. It was all on floppy disk, and we did this program after school. The teacher left for a little bit, so we dug through all of the cabinets for more games because we only had a couple on the computers. So when we got bored, we dug through these cabinets and we found all these old floppies, and it was really cool because there's one where it was just like it was a side-scrolling platformer where there's only one room, and you had to spell things out or do math, and it was super basic, but it got it down. I was like, I really liked it. I played the hell out of it. And
for my schools, we were left with Oregon Trail forever.
You never win. You die of dysentery all the time.
Yeah. No.
If you're listening to this, you died of dysentery.
And you lost the game. But no, I remember my school freaking out because they updated one of the library, only one, because money, I guess.
Well, you had two libraries though.
Like, we didn't have two libraries. No, just one computer in like this 3-computer room in the library. One of them got updated to like a full color computer, like in that 1 year, and they added Mario Teaches Typing. And dear God, kids would start wars over that. And it was just the weirdest thing. And I didn't really play that game because I really didn't want to wait in those lines. So I'm actually really terrible at typing because I didn't decide to seize the moment when I was in third grade. So like that's just what happened with me.
Oh, another one I do remember is Geo Safari. Ever seen one of those?
I don't actually.
Okay,
That,
so
that
it
one's
was,
actually new to me.
it was like this weird. It was like this weird. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a wall thing where you put a piece of paper in, and you have these sheets of paper with a code on it, and then um, you would turn it on, and it'll ask you what game do you want to play, and you hit
Oh,
the paper will say
okay.
like A35.
Yeah.
Type in A35 and you put it up, and it beeps and it asks you trivia, and it was
I remember seeing those. I don't recall ever seeing those in my school.
Oh, okay.
I think we leveled up to IBMs and just stayed there for a while.
oh okay.
Like we were basically playing like the weird version of how SAO handled their story.
Well, the nice thing was this thing was more of a toy than a computer, so if you had time to play it, you could play it, and everybody would want to jump on it until nobody wanted to play anymore. So I was like, all right, I got to see what the hubbub is all about. I love the thing when I jumped on it. So, okay, I can see why people liked it so much. But yeah, everybody had a chance on it, and nobody wanted to play it, so I was happy because it was all mine.
Yeah, no, like going back on that Greenmo thing, like I don't recall anybody like crapping on it or anything. I don't recall anybody saying anything bad about it. Like I had like 3 CDs version of those like collections.
Yeah.
But
we
I
gotta,
will.
We gotta find those.
Yeah, we'll definitely look them up and just like do something with them. Maybe put some gameplay into the feed or something. But I think one of the ones that people shit on back then, and it is something that I liked as a kid, and like people around my same age at the time just hated it because it was like too cartoony. It was right around the time where some kids were trying to be more edgier because they had older, siblings and stuff. Was this Captain Crunch game? Like it came out of like a little like floppy disk or CD-ROM, I don't remember which, out of a cereal box, right? Mm-hmm. And you played a bunch. Like you just put it in the CD-ROM and you just get just it's whatever. And you get these like Tamagotchi weird fur balls, which were it was called Crunchling Adventure, mm-hmm. And you were given these little things called Crunchlings, which is supposed to be like a pseudo, like furry version of Captain Crunch's little orb ball things, mm-hmm. that you could paint different colors and stuff like that. And that was the weirdest thing you want to associate with your fucking cereal. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now and saying that out loud.
Well, maybe they were trying to emulate that little honeycomb guy. Remember the honeycomb guy?
You know what? That was probably what happened. Like, it probably happened around that same time. I'm not even going to lie. That's actually kind of, that's a good point. Like, their treasure is like, it's my own honeycomb and they're crunchy. Yeah, gross. But it was basically like a weird Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
Right? It was a very short game,
mm-hmm.
but like you could spend maybe 2 hours and like beat the whole thing. Like you gotta level up its food, level its happiness, and then like after that you use that as like a weird energy source to like train it. So strength and speed and like something else like agility or something to that point. And then you feed it again. The setback to that, like looking at it now, is you could just feed and pet it until it's happy again and keep doing it until you beat the whole game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it made it was a free game on a side, like glued to a side of a box of Captain Crunch. You're not gonna get that much out of it. But so like for some reason I loved it. I don't understand when I was a kid. Like playing it now, I'm pretty sure I was like, yeah, I totally get why I wouldn't play this. Like everybody else was obviously ahead of the curve, and I wasn't. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. Yeah. I don't know why. Like it was probably one of those things. Like I couldn't have a Tamagotchi at the time, mm-hmm. because obviously and it was more because our schools just didn't allow shit like that.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
okay.
it wasn't allowed. We weren't allowed to have those. We were allowed to have Orbit's drinks for like 3 days before some rich kid decided to like really throw a fit about it, and then suddenly nobody gets anything anymore. And like that's how you could tell with status is whatever kid brought in Tamagotchis or brought in Orbit's drinks and stuff. You know that kid was loaded.
Yeah. I think for us with the Tamagotchis and Gigapets.
Oh God, Gigapets. That's what the name was.
Yeah, Gigapets.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think like Digimon. One of my friends had a Digimon, and everybody's like, "What's a Digimon?" And then I can't remember because it was recently when when our parents just moved here, and we just moved to the school, and then I was like, "What's all these things?" Like I didn't know what the trend was, and then a couple weeks later, they're like, "No more Gigapets, no more Tamagotchis." Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, no, like they had them every now and again, but only like the rich kids had them at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like it was this weird, like highly words are heard, highly revered item. Like people are like, oh, Eric brought in one of his Tamagotchis. You know he has like 3. That kid is loaded. Also, fuck you, Eric. But like it was just that way, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but double backing, like everyone like didn't like that game, and like I liked it. It was like I guess it was just the way I liked it because it was just my cheap version of Tamagotchi.
Well, I mean, you're a animal guy, so
I mean, I guess, yeah, yeah. I got like 3 dogs, and
I have the need to nurture and take care of something. Yeah.
I'm just trying to train them all to fight, but that's never gonna work out because all of them just want to eat my spaghetti. But like to like kind of piggyback on my own statement, and this ties into Nintendo stuff. This was one of the things like looking into this topic, I didn't realize wasn't very popular. Pokemon had a series, and I think about 12 CDs or so, like these weird little mini CDs. Mm-hmm. You put them in, and they kind of like worked together in tandem in some game that kind of worked as a Pokedex. Mm-hmm. But it had like weird mini games with it, and I was so desperate in trying to collect them all that I even like stole them from my friends and stuff too. But like, I never hear anybody talk about it, and I remember it was right when it was on the peak where cards were thriving and all that, and people just at the time when these CDs were around, everybody kind of like gave it no mind because it was quote unquote awful because it didn't do anything.
What was it like? How do you get them? What were they, anyways?
You know, I don't even remember anymore. I actually think it was in some kind of like promo, like I don't want to say magazines, but I think it was in some kind of promo for some kind of food or something like that. Like I can't remember off the top of my head on that. But it was just
I vaguely remember them, but I just didn't really care because my parents wouldn't let us touch the computer. So,
and I think that's another reason. Like nobody really cared because they either had something that was more interactive or something at that point, or they just had their favorite Pokemon or whatever. But it was just like very like not all of them. Like I thought every Pokemon was gonna get one, so I was like excited about it. And it never happened. There's like maybe 12 total or something to that point, which was really, really weird, right?
Yeah.
But going from like kids and playing like now that it's terrible. There was stuff that when I was probably in my teens into my early 20s that I was told don't touch those games. Those games were bad, and I still had to. I had to try them out. Turned out they're good, or at least I think so. And one of them was Quest 64. We kind of touched on that, but you're familiar with that type of that type of gaming and stuff. So
sorry. Well, touching up on like the weird promotional games, I guess.
Yeah, right.
The Bionicle game, I really liked it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was because it was like the ambience is there because it made you feel like you were the only one on that island, or at the very least, because you have like these little inhabitants too, and they'll talk to them, and you have to find the 6 Toas or something like that. But you can't read anything because they'll talk to you, but when you need to decipher a puzzle, there's like no translation, and you kind of got to figure out through the stuff on the in the actual Bionicles, like the actual booklets. They sort of have a rough translation of things that you kind of match up and try to figure out the language. But it was really cool though. I never really finished it because I only played it like every once in a while if I had time to play at school. But yeah, the ambience is just really really cool because it made you feel like you were alone in this weird island with these mech people. It was fun though.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I dabbled with one of those and I never really messed with it. But I think one that was very comparable to that was that when the GameCube first started getting announced and showed off, there was this one website that was showing off some supposedly upcoming project called like Unbroken Sword or something. Don't quote me on it. I don't remember the name. But it was like this interactive comic strip that was very like elaborate, but kind of like ended in a cliffhanger. But never they had stuff that was supposed to be coming soon about the new game that's coming up, and it never happened. It was one of those vaporware games that was very like it was used as an evidence of vaporware before vaporware became a thing. It was one of those, here's a game that will never happen, and it was highlighted until like the end of the GameCube, and then suddenly there's so many more games that would never happen anymore.
You sure you weren't watching a E3 presentation?
No, it was an interesting like illustrated comic and stuff. It was actually kind of interesting. I would have to look up more on that history. I swear it's called Unbroken Sword, but I could easily be wrong on that. And that's just off the top of my head after you were talking about the interactive web game and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But going back, there's stuff I played a lot in my teenage years and stuff that people told me was garbage. And I touched on like Quest 64, which I thought was great at the time. I still think.
Did you ever finish it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I finished that game. The story was bland. Like
okay.
I will say, looking back at it, the story was bland. I did finish it. I do think at the time, because they've done some more radical stuff now. At the time, I feel like the battle mechanics were more advanced than most of the RPGs at the time.
And that's by the IP, right?
I would. If I had that type of money, I would.
You redo it, update it. Yeah.
I would probably like do an up-res version of Quest 64. You know, get it out there, see if more people will be down to playing it. You know, maybe fix some problems with it, like fix some mechanical problems and stuff. Maybe change up the animations a bit.
Plus, have you seen the speed runs of them?
I have not. Of Quest 64?
Yeah.
There's runs of Quest 64.
Yeah.
Huh. No.
Yeah, because there's certain things that are like super super glitchy, and like, just early in the beginning, if you could pull this one certain enemy that isn't supposed to be there, it'll give you some like crazy broken spell, and you just like smash through the game, and yeah, it's pretty funny though.
That's funny. I believe that. I can believe that. But honestly, like, it felt like it was a good game that could easily be built upon. Like, I would have been okay with it, except for a quail head guy with generic name Brian. Like, it was a good game. I enjoyed it. You probably even have some yourself. So
yeah, Kingsfield, back on the PS1. I did kind of touch upon this, but if anybody hasn't really played it, it's basically OG from software game, and you're thrown on this island. I like the first one. The first one plays a lot smoother, and it's very low poly, but once you figure out how the enemies react and where your sword's hitbox is, kind because it's super tricky because everything just beats the hell out of you. Like you don't stand a chance until you figure out circle behind them and stab them in the back. But there's no dodge rolling, unfortunately. But you got to be crafty with.
Wait, there's a third person view?
No. You got to be crafty with like how you engage the enemy. It's a lot of dying and trying too. So it sucks because the first time I played it, we didn't have a memory card. Memory cards are freaking awful. So, but the first time I played it too, I was like, this is so stupid. And then once we played all our games, I was like, all right, I got to go back to play. Let's try this Kingsfield out. It's so dumb. And oh my god, it's such a good game just because of like how you slowly scratch the surface of something and you just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And the exploration is just so good because you're always curious about what's around the corner. So I love Kingsfield. Bring it back, please, or at least give us a master collection, something.
I honestly, we have a topic about that coming up, so that would be a really good one that we're going to be touching up on. But like honestly, I do think because of how popular Dark Souls is, it put From Software like really right square in the map. Like people want more Dark Souls or more Dark Souls like games from them.
Yeah,
they're likely to want to see Kingsfield returned, remastered, or like.
Oh, I would buy PS5 for that. I would forgive Sony and buy PS5 for Kingsfield.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't know. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll go bum off someone. Like, let me borrow your PS5. I'll just buy the game.
Just walk around to your friends, just knock them all on the door. You got a PS5? I got this game I need to play. But actually, what's funny is you talking about a PS1 game. I was gonna like touch base on like Buck Bumble, but I got a much better one to talk about now, and it's also on the PlayStation 1. Everybody crapped on it because it wasn't Diablo. I didn't know about Diablo at the time. And it was a game called like Redstone. It was a top-down, very rigid action RPG at the time. And, like the dudes moved like it made Steve from Minecraft look smooth. Like it was rough, right? But I played hours upon hours in that game. Like I love action RPGs, and I think that was my first dab into it that made me crave more.
This just reminds about if the Yu-Gi-Oh kid played Yu-Gi-Oh before Magic, and he sees Magic, and he's like, "Oh, is this based off of Yu-Gi-Oh?"
Yeah, that's almost like how I was doing. That was almost exactly that.
Yeah,
like
you see these
like
nerds
people like
turn their head.
Yeah, they literally like. I remember having a friend of mine, and he was like, "Why didn't you just play Diablo? Like what?
What's Diablo?
What's that?" Like I was dumb. Like I wasn't paying attention to that. And then I found out Diablo is on the PC, so I just played it from there. And I played a way more amount of that than I ever did on the Diablo on the PlayStation. But it was Redstone that was like, well, I don't know. Gauntlet kind of falls into that too, wouldn't you think? Like that style of genre?
Yeah, I think so.
Like it's more arcadey, but like it kind of falls into that genre, and I think that's why I like it so much because it feels very much like the Gauntlet Legends and stuff. Because I love those games.
Yeah.
But it was the only like it was an action RPG. Like you didn't have to worry about just swaths of stuff and all that. You were killing a bunch of stuff. Granted, all of it was like multicolored versions of like the same 5 animals, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I got lost a shit ton of times, but it was one of those games that were just, it was fun for me. Yeah. And everyone I knew hated it because they played Diablo first, and I totally get why. Like now, if I played it, I would probably still enjoy it because the memories I had with it.
Yeah.
But I could almost guarantee you, even my memories are saying that game was jank. Like, that game was janky. So like that was definitely something that growing up I discovered, and like Redstone beats Buck Bumble in that type of context. To be honest, like I could still manage fun out of Buck Bumble right now.
Oh,
Like
okay.
outside outside the glaring draw distance that is feels like it's so forced now.
Well, I mean, in real life, we still get draw distance. There's still fog sometimes when I'm driving on the highway.
I
and,
can still see 3 feet in front of me.
but there's still fog. So,
Like it's ridiculous, but like when you were playing it as a kid,
yeah.
that like never made that sense like. But I will still say right now, probably the draw distance. If they remove that from that game, that game's gonna look a lot uglier.
Yeah.
It's like a curtain. Like, don't look that way. Like, but like, yeah, between the two, Redstone definitely took the cake on that one because I think I remember a lot of friends liking Buck Bumble at the time, and or at least even liking the main theme, which I have on my phone all the time.
Okay.
But yeah, growing up on that. But there's been stuff that I've played now that's been like considered horrible because it's either like a low budget game or it's made by a certain company or it's like made all sorts of stuff, right? And no, I'm not trying to dance around and say EA is good. EA is not. I think like one of the things was like you discover some stuff that's like, wait a minute, how is this horrible? You know? And that's this that when you're an adult, you're like, wait, hold on, this is not as bad as you guys are saying. You guys are
Resident
just
Evil
wimps.
6.
Yeah,
Well,
like Resident Evil 6.
the weird I don't know why people had such a huge thing about it, like huge issue with it. I do know like kind of strayed away from the horror genre and kind of made it more actiony.
That's the only reason why I was disinterested in it.
Oh, okay.
Like I didn't like it as much as I liked 4, and that's why I never played it.
Yeah.
So
I still think it's leagues ahead of 5, or at the very least when I went back to 5, the colors were really drab and
yeah. What was your favorite level of that? The Brown Castle, the Gray Castle, the Revenge of the Brown Castle?
yeah. But with 6, it was just the controls were simpler. I guess it was more actiony, but it played really nice. I don't see why people had such an issue with it. It did like go way over the top because you get into a fight. If you get into a fist fight with the tyrant, so yeah, and then
That's dumb. Like,
it is Capcom.
this is the first time. This is the first time I'm actually hearing about that.
Yeah,
Because I don't like none of my friends are really that big into Resident Evil that they tell me anything. So that's dumb.
it's almost as like crazy as Chris punching a boulder. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
But
with
but
this one they
I don't know.
overdid
I feel like they were purposely going more over the top, and then they were like, we don't know what to do with it after 6. Let's just slap it on their next VR game.
it. Yeah, basically.
I feel like I'd really feel like 7 and 8 shouldn't be Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
Like it feels like they're only reason why they're like dropping characters into 8 is so they can try to quote unquote make it feel official.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's the case. I'm not ragging on those games, but every time I see those games, I do not feel like they're Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
Like I really don't.
Yeah.
So that's just the weirdest thing. But there was a couple of modes that like when I bought it for Switch that you actually kind of took over and was like playing hours on too. On 6 when I bought it for the Switch.
Sorry. I'm trying to think. Well, I don't know. I wish they. What are we leading up to?
I think it was the weird multiplayer thing that you were playing, the like Revelations or something at that point. I don't know. The Mercenaries. Mercenaries mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Revelations is where it originated.
yeah. I don't know. I love Mercenaries. That's the only thing I ever really play it for. Is beat story so I could get to Mercenaries mode. But
Get the fuck out of here.
but I mean it plays pretty well. But I mean since 4 had Mercenaries, 5 had Mercenaries. so they decided to put it in 6. But yeah, it plays really tight. Like the controller is just really really tight, and it feels really nice. So I don't know why people are dogging on it. It happened. It's gonna be in there. So,
Hell, only one game, guys. Um, yeah, no, that's fair. And like, do you think? Do you know why it doesn't get played very often now? Like we tried to get online with the Switch version, and like that was right when it launched, and no one's playing it.
yeah, I don't know. I think people are just more preoccupied with single player, but with like even in other games where you're like, oh, there's a like the Switch version comes out and it's just a remake. I don't know why people just don't want to jump on. It's just the way it is, I guess.
I don't know, like, I like the online type of system and stuff like that. I don't know what gets some places going, but I've had some where I could find rooms in older games on a system that just gets an instant port. Whereas playing it on its original console, I barely ever found anything.
Oh, okay.
Like, what's a good example of that? God, it just escaped my head. That's not good for a podcast. It'll eventually come back to me, and we'll make a whole topic about it later. But it was one of like, it's interesting because I'm pretty sure it's like new people or people giving it a go and just curious to see if people were excited to see the port as much as they did.
Yeah.
Maybe because there's games like Flip Wars that Nintendo made for the Switch that nobody plays.
Well, it seemed like a tech demo. That's kind of the issue.
Well, yeah, and the thing was, like, I feel like it was like a Mario Party tech demo, in a way. Like, but at the same time, it was type of a game like kind of like Bomberman.
Yeah.
You know, like you only play it for the multiplayer,
Yeah.
right? And that's what Flip Wars is like. But I don't think Flip Wars sold very well. Period.
Yeah.
To even like guarantee to find enough people to kind of gather around and play it on a system. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like I sat there for a while, but it was not a bad game, but it wouldn't be something I would say falls into this. Like for me though, what falls into this is like, and it's weird, because people crap on them, but they're like very reminiscent to like the old Super Nintendo games, like Super Nintendo RPGs in general. I'm not saying that they play like them very often, but they're very reminiscent to it. It's like the Kemco RPGs that they've been making. They've been making for like the last 10-ish years. And a lot of them have been like on mobile arcades and stuff like that. But they're full on RPGs. They're just lighter versions. You just buy them outright and you could play the entire RPG, but they're not as in depth as like the old Super Nintendo games and stuff.
Yeah.
But they have decent story writing, decent character arcs and stuff. Like they're not. None of what they do is inherently bad, right?
Oh, okay.
Like all of it functions, all of it works and serves its purpose, but nothing really blows out there. So
Something to kind of chew on until Final Fantasy comes out, basically.
if you're a Final Fantasy fan, yeah, or
Yeah,
if you're a Xenoblade fan or something like that, or if you're just craving some kind of like classic sense of RPG. Like there was so many that was like that in the Super Nintendo era that kind of looked all the same and such. These games kind of are very reminiscent to it. They're like they remind me of playing Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, okay.
But they don't have the same experience of playing Final Fantasy VI, as that was my favorite game in the Final Fantasy series. But it reminds me of that type of play, and like the line up characters and the pixel art and stuff like that. The games like what is it? Legend of Tetrarchs and As Divine Hearts, for example. Like I have those two. They're like lighter versions of every Final Fantasy game on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like that's just how I feel like it is, because it is very turn based. It's very like class based. Like certain characters will know and learn certain abilities and stuff like that. And it's actually they're not bad games, but everyone I know just craps on them.
Really?
Yeah, because I think one of the reasons is because
It's not Final Fantasy.
no, it's more of that they started off on like Apple Arcade,
Oh, okay.
so they're quote unquote mobile games, and they're immediately tossed into the trash bin.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, people, some mobile games are actually good, and we will probably touch on that eventually as well. Like
Exos Heroes. Exos Heroes. Play Exos Heroes, people.
Well, that. There we go. That's the end of our episode 6. So thanks you guys for coming. But no, seriously, like they were just traditional. Like you play, you equip your characters, you get spells. This is just every RPG in the Super Nintendo era.
Yeah.
It worked that way, and they're just good. Like honestly, they're just the people crapped on them because they were mobile games, and they're not that bad actually. They don't by no means do anything that really stands out.
Yeah.
Like by no means.
That also reminds me about a really, really good mobile game is Man or Vampire. Oh my god, that's a good game. I think it came out in like 2011 on mobile, and nobody was talking about it. But basically, it was you walk your characters through a dungeon, and you have to attack the creatures that come by, and you hire mercenaries. Man, it's hard to explain, I guess. But the graphic looks really good. The utilization of the UI and everything is like really clean, and I'm like, why isn't this a paid game? It's done really, really well. I think you guys should check it out because nobody talks about it, and I think it's just because it's a mobile game, nobody ever touches it. But I'm like,
Well,
I
it's
wish
not
it's
only
for the
that. It's
Switch.
probably like a mobile game that's in 2011.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nobody wants to play. Like I don't get it. Like unless you're one of the major ones that gets tossed in your face all the time, like
Yeah.
Raid, Shadow Legends. We are not brought to you by that, by the way. But
You can always sponsor us.
yeah. Shh. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But unless it's something that always gets tossed into your face all the time,
Yeah.
you don't play it after like maybe a couple months, like at best.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that I want to touch base on that, but I'll probably just cover on that later. But like that's what basically where all these RPGs are coming from. Like
Okay.
they have a huge like plethora of these guys. Like there's a lot of them on the Switch right now, but they also have like weird little collections that people can import that like have 2 or 3, maybe 4 on it. They're all just the like omnibuses of these RPGs that they had on the Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
They're not bad. They're good. They're just short, easy to chew, easy to digest, easy to follow. But they don't do anything wild.
Yeah.
And like all the characters are so cliche too. Like it's cringy how some of the characters are very cliche. Like it is. But it's not, I do not see it as a good or bad thing. It's just a thing
Yeah.
for them because it's just everything else just rolls so well and you're not expecting too much out of it anyway that the cliche is just, oh, here it is, and that's it, And like I said, I only know people that just crapped on it. Like anybody who I knew about these games just didn't like them.
Ah, okay.
Like they didn't care for them. It's not as good as these. It's not good as those. They're not. But I enjoy them quite a bit. They're not. They're pretty normal,
Yeah.
But it's obviously when you have that compared to stuff like Xenoblade and literally Final Fantasy games on the system, I understand where most people are gonna go.
Yeah.
But that's just some classic stuff, or at least classic experience stuff. But yeah, no, that's just stuff that I kind of knew.
Okay, so another game that nobody ever talks about, or I don't know, maybe people do, but Prey, the 2017 Prey. Anyways,
I I will say, like, I got confused by the game Prey because I remember the one that was like in early 2000s.
Yeah, the Xbox 360 version.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's the one I remember people talking about, and then like I heard some like critical acclaim of this Prey, and I didn't hear anything beyond that.
Oh, okay. Uh, well, the first one was just like a generic shooter, and then this new one, I don't know why even bother buying the IP because it has nothing to do with the last one. But you're on Telos, I think Telos One. You're on a space station, and all this crazy stuff has happened. But the ambience is, I love the ambience. It makes you feel like you're on the spaceship, and there's these weird aliens that that take over the ship, and it's basically System Shock is what everybody's saying. I never played System Shock, but they're saying it's basically System Shock, and it's done so well because every encounter with an alien is life or death. At least for me, when you're really new into it, you don't know how to do it and how to play it.
Right.
But and man, it was scary. It was fun, and oh my god, it's such a good game. I don't know, I can't praise it enough. I think it's one of the best games I've ever played. So
Nice. Yeah, no, I've never played it either, to be honest. Like once like the hype kind of fell off the cliff with the release, like
well, there was no hype. I think Bethesda didn't even like. Bethesda put out like some ads for it, but they was super vague. They didn't talk about it. I thought it was just a generic alien shooter game, and then some YouTubers talked about it, but I never saw it again. And then I had a chance to pick it up for $20 because it was during a E3 event, and they were like, "Oh, we're adding a bunch of new stuff, and it's only $20, so get it now." So I was like, you know what? I'll play it. $20 with all these new expansions, and I'm like, I was disappointed I didn't pick this up earlier. It was such a good game, though.
I can relate to that. With Shadow of the Colossus when we talked about that, it was something that I strongly regret never playing earlier.
Yeah,
but that one was actually critically acclaimed amongst a lot of the people I know. But yeah, no, that's like. There's probably a lot more I could probably touch on if I gave it more time and just like have an entire rant to go with on it. Like it would be endless. Especially, oh my god, especially on the 64, dude. I could probably list about 7 of them, easy. Rocket, Robot on Wheels is another one I could probably break down just off the top of my head. But I feel like just talking about this a little bit right now instead of just me ranting for 80% of our podcast is probably going to be a lot better. But there was so many that like so many people hated at the time because it wasn't Rayman or it wasn't Mario and it wasn't Zelda, and instead it was very akin to Earthworm 3D, which it was horrible. But there was games I played that people said they were horrible, and I was like, I don't know why. I like them. Oh, like Jet Force Gemini is another one.
Oh yeah.
The collectathon that went a little too far with it. Like you literally cannot beat the game without collecting all the weird puffball dudes.
Oh my god.
Like you can't fight the final boss. Like that's
I think
that's garbage.
Jack and Daxter did the same thing too.
Like there's a difference between having an ending and like having a true ending and stuff.
Yeah.
You couldn't fight the final boss period.
Oh my god.
Like you had to save them all.
Yeah.
Like it's such a pain in the ass. But I could go on for a while on that too. Like it's there was quite a few in my like young adult age that like I look back, I'm like, yeah, some of those were really bad, but I would still play the crap out of them now. Like it's just that way. Yeah. Like I also have, like I'm very nostalgic with the 64. I have maybe 4 or 5 games on the Switch now that were ports of just up-res ports of 64 games now. Like I've been playing Turok. I've been playing the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I just received my physical copy of Doom 64.
Oh,
it's,
man.
it's an ongoing thing for me. I was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do this. Literally, if somebody just ported Buck Bumble, I'd probably buy that game too. I'm not even gonna get. That's just how ridiculous like that system has been for me.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, I guess. But but yeah, no, nah. Some really crappy games are out there, and like if you know some, you could also say like, hey, I enjoyed some crappy games. Let us know what you guys had that people just didn't like you even enjoying, and I might try to give them a go too. And if I don't like them, I'll probably hate play them. But we're just gonna go ahead and wrap that up. But yeah, if you have any ideas, leave a comment and
like, subscribe,
smash those like buttons, hit those notification buttons with a vengeance and prejudice, I guess. I don't know. No, do so lovingly. Do so lovingly. We're a positive channel. But yes, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the other side.